I have always been a believer of magic. Astrology and all of these other tools comes with a sense of freedom because you're not restricted by what's written in your chart. You are here to understand yourself better, break patterns, and rewrite the story.
And I think it's so unfortunate that some people prey on that state of vulnerability.
Don't go to anybody who induces fear. So if someone tells you that if you don't do this puja, or if you don't do this, or if you don't marry a pot or a tree or a plant, you're doomed for the rest of your life, please pack your belongings and run home.
Have you ever found yourself looking up the zodiac sign of a crush just to check if you'd be compatible? Or looked at your weekly horoscope, wondering if there's love on the cards? I'm Leeza Mangaldas, and this is Love Matters. And today we're going to be gliding through the galaxies of divination and love. And to do that with me today is Zohra Shakti. She's an astrologer, a psychic, a tarot card reader, crystal healer, someone who's really immersed herself in the world of cosmic intelligence. And as someone who knows very little about the subject and has veered towards skepticism thus far, I am so looking forward to learning all about it. Zohra, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to glide through the cosmos, as you said, and talk about astrology and talk about the numbers and talk about how they have a profound impact on our lives.
Absolutely. I was very intrigued when you laid out the tarot deck. You also put those crystals down. Tell me about them.
Okay, so the green one you see there is fluorite, and the whitish pink one is a Himalayan quartz. Okay, so the green one is actually great for communication and ideas and inspiration. So that little friend there is going to give us cosmic zoomies.
Love it. Okay, and the pink one?
It's just to enhance communication, give us a little more clarity. All in all, these crystals are meant to, let's say, make us feel a little more tuned in, a little more inspired to the cosmic flow of intelligence.
Zohra, what got you interested in divination? How did you discover this world as well as your aptitude for it?
I want to say that I've always been a curious child, and I think it comes from having a lot of air placements. I have an Aquarius rising and a couple of other stuff. One of the things that I believe in is always being a student and always being a teacher. So always being ever present to that flow of energy, which means literally nerding out, reading as many books as you can, listening to as many podcasts, courses, but also always passing that energy forward. Finding outlets to share it with other people in whatever way that they can understand, in a way that's real and relatable. So to circle back to your question, it's definitely my curiosity and my never-ending urge to know more about the way that the cosmos works. And most importantly for me, these tools of divination answer the question, why am I the way I am and why are you the way you are, right? So in a way, it's so deeply personal and psychological, because we tend to understand divination as merely something that focuses on future predictions, versus I want to understand why I am the way that I am. What is my essence? What are my gifts? What am I here to do?
I love that. I want to know. I want to ask you all about why I am the way I am. I am looking forward to getting into that. But before we get into that, I wanted to also ask what you make of the newfound enthusiasm and curiosity, a word you used, around astrology and tarot and all of these sort of alternative modes of knowledge that Gen Z and millennials seem to, like, we are in an astro era.
We're in an astro era,
right?
Exactly.
What do you think has contributed to this sort of like resurgence of faith even, right? And the popularity around these modes of knowing?
We grew up with a very rigid system in the way that I have profound respect for Jyotish as a system, but the way that that information was passed on to us made us feel limited. It didn't make us feel like we can spread our wings and fly. But the difference between modern practitioners and, say, the more traditional astrologers is that we acknowledge the role of free will, right? So for instance, Leeza, I can tell you that your rising is Taurus, but I can either tell you in a way that empowers you to go out there and live your purpose and live your truth, or I can tell you in a way that makes you feel that the cards that were handed down to you are somehow negative. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And I think that for our generation, astrology and all of these other tools comes with a sense of freedom, because it helps you in this journey of self-discovery, but it also in a way helps you understand that you're not restricted by what's written in your chart. You are here to understand yourself better, break patterns, and rewrite the story.
And what do you make of the business side of this sort of rise in popularity? You know, today the astro tech industry already in India is like a multi-billion-dollar industry, and holistic wellness globally that often co-opts some of the language and mechanisms of divination is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So do you think that there's something both for consumers and practitioners to be mindful of in terms of retaining the spiritual integrity of this, while also leaning into the fact that it's a massive market opportunity?
Absolutely. I really like that you use the word integrity, because that's so important for any practitioner to understand. And I would like to be politically incorrect here and say, don't go to anybody who induces fear. Okay, so if someone tells you that if you don't do this puja, or if you don't do this, or if you don't marry a pot or a tree or a plant, you're doomed for the rest of your life, please pack your belongings and run home.
Thank you
right?
for that.
Yes, of course. So don't let anybody sell you fear. You are the boss of you. This is your chart, but again, I'm going to keep coming back to this. You're not restricted by it. You're not limited by it. It's your cosmic blueprint. It's your map. Take everything with a pinch of salt, including what I tell you. And I always tell this to my clients and my readers. Ultimately, it is your actions and your decisions that define the course of your life. This is the map. This is the guideline. And take it, absorb it, synthesize it, and then play with it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that so often people come to these sort of sources of knowledge that seem less easy to define, I suppose, at periods of feeling lost, you know?
Absolutely.
When something goes wrong, you're willing to...
Yes.
At least that's been my experience as well. And I think it's so unfortunate that some people prey on that state of vulnerability, right?
Absolutely.
It's definitely something to be
mindful
aware
of.
of.
Yeah. And we can sense it in our bones, right? If you're in a space where don't look for logic. You know, someone would have recommended a practitioner that worked for them, but you're sitting in their studio and you're somehow feeling drained or depleted, and instead of feeling replenished, instead of feeling like you're ready to embrace your sense of purpose again, that's your red flag. Don't stay. Don't let anybody make those decisions for you or tell you that you're doomed in some way.
To play the devil's advocate for
Absolutely.
a second, what do you say to people who dismiss these sorts of modes of knowing as unscientific or fake?
Oh, I love it. I have no time to convince anybody who doesn't believe in magic. But I will tell you this, Leeza. So I've never been a skeptic. I've always been a believer of magic. I just didn't know what that meant as a kid. And that's where the exploration started. You know, so we use this term called coming out of the spiritual closet because when you're younger, you don't want everyone to know that you have a secret stash of cards or a book on spells or like little red candles stashed away somewhere. So when I did come out of the spiritual closet, so to speak, I tiptoed a little, you know, because I didn't want to let my freak flag fly immediately.
Freak flag, I love that. I'm going to use that.
You should, yeah. But I've been incredibly lucky in the way that I've always been met with curiosity. So when I decided I want to take this step and I want to embrace this as my life path and my passion, you know, it became this strange little secret club that I would go to parties and everyone's a little tipsy and having this conversation about superficial conversations, and then someone pulls me in a corner and then starts talking to me about dreams or visions of their past life, and I was like, okay, really, like, weren't you talking about The most mundane topic. I mean, I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, but I'm talking about it in a way that, someone could have been talking about, say, fashion or politics or something like that, and then suddenly they pull me in a corner and I see this whole new side of them. And I think when I first, like I said, started sharing my practice, I had these sort of biases, that women would be more receptive, or certain kinds of people would be more receptive. But I want to say that spirituality, I'm using it as an umbrella term, is for absolutely everybody. Men, women, irrespective of your gender, your caste, your race, because I feel like people shy away from talking about their quote-unquote surreal or mystical experiences because it makes them feel weird in some way. It makes them feel like they're going to be singled out, or people are going to make fun of them. But for me, like I said, it's been wonderful because somehow people just found this safe space to start talking about their mystical experiences and seeing it as quote-unquote normal. So I don't actually, to answer your question, I don't actually meet as many skeptics. I meet people who pretend to be skeptics and then find a safe space to share their experiences.
Wonder if I am guilty as charged. Haven't come out of the spiritual closet yet. But we shall today.
We shall, absolutely.
We shall today. Okay. Yes. So I am, since this is Love Matters, I am eager to keep picking your brains about
Absolutely.
how we can use the perspectives and insights from all of the various modes that you are familiar with to gain perspective on our relationships. But I'm happy to also offer myself as the guinea pig were we to use it.
Absolutely.
Me as my charts or cards or whatever as an example for listeners to also understand the capacity for insight that these modes provide. So I thought we'd start with astrology.
Sure.
For the uninitiated, which I myself barely know anything about, honestly. What is astrology? How does it work? What is a birth chart? What are the big three, sun, moon, rising? You tried to take me through it a moment ago before we started, but let's break it down for people who might not really know much.
Absolutely. My endeavor is to keep it simple because I want everybody to be able to understand this. So I'm not going to go into the complexities of synastry, but let's talk about the birth chart, right? So it is the map of the sky on the day that you were born. And I think it's wild. It's not a coincidence. It's the precise moment you said, okay, I'm getting on a spaceship and I'm landing here, right? So your all your planetary placements are defined by that precise moment. Now, coming to the big three, right? Most of us would say, okay, I'm Libra, or I'm Cancer, or I'm Gemini, which essentially means that I'm a Libra sun, or in your case, you're a Gemini sun. Of course, we know what the sun sign is, but again, I'll give you a few keywords. Think of the sun as the soul, so your purpose, where you shine the most. And think of the moon as not just your body, but your emotional body, right? And I think the moon is so, at least for me, I think that the moon is so interesting because when you first meet the sun, when you first meet a person, you get a sense of their rising and their sun. But when you know them intimately, you'll see the moon, okay? Because that's how you relate to people that you actually care about, that you're close to. So in any sort of relationship, platonic, romantic, anything, when you're close to somebody, I feel like your moon really shines through, right? Whereas your rising is, the overarching plan, the patterns, what drives you, what motivates you, the larger picture of what your life is going to look like.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So what would it, so let's say you say I have Gemini sun and Gemini moon.
Yeah.
And we had a hard time figuring out what rising I have. But let's say you have that knowledge.
Right.
What can you infer about a person from that?
Okay.
I hear a lot of people who are very into astrology asking that, for example, before going out with figuring out whether they'll go on a date with this person. So what can one tell? Is there so much that can be inferred from simply those facts about a person?
Absolutely.
Or should you give them a chance? You
should give everybody a chance.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm always going to say that this is true and that is true. I don't think that we can be so rigid because I know for a fact that you have a Gemini sun and I could have another woman who probably shares not just your sun sign but your birthday, and you will still have very different ways of expressing that essence, you know. So I think that, yeah, basically give everybody a chance. You don't know until you actually meet them and discover them, right? And I mean, in the beginning, we're all wearing masks. And the more you get to know people, like I said, you're going to see the moon, you're going to see how they are intimately, you're going to see the vulnerabilities, the strengths, all of it. So don't be rigid about, and don't stereotype people. Oh, you're a Gemini, you must be like that. And I'm using that example of Gemini because that's the most hated sign on the internet.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh my goodness, why are we hated?
See, now that's the thing, right? People will say, oh, Geminis are two-faced and all of that. But what they will not say is that Geminis are incredibly creative, okay? You can talk to them about, it's wild. You can talk to them about anything from politics to astrology to like, what is the right sea salt to use for this recipe? Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's, I think talking to Gemini.
But why are they hated?
You want to go back to that?
I'm so intrigued.
I'm going to go back to the, they have a bad rep for being two-faced and gossip.
In relationships or in general?
In general, because apparently they're going to gossip and take information from here and give it there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I'm so antisocial. I don't even need any, let alone gossip.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like
see,
very
there
isolated.
You go, right? And that's why that definition does not apply to you.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah.
What's the most beloved sign on the internet? Scorpio?
No, actually, I was going to say that after Gemini, Scorpio is the most hated sign.
Oh, but I hear there's like lots of stereotypes around Scorpios being like the most intense lovers and things like that.
Absolutely.
At least I see that on meme pages and things.
Absolutely, but then also apparently they're jealous and possessive and vengeful, but they're also,
I see,
maybe the best lover that you're going to have.
So do you think that the stereotypes and the internet memes and the sort of discourse that, you know, teenagers or whatever are having around these signs are mainly just banter, or there is some truth to these stereotypes?
I think it's the same thing. Take everything with a grain of salt. I want to say that everything, literally everything has shadow and light, right? So again, if we're talking about, say, Cancer, they're supposed to be, I mean, it's the sign of the mother. So even men in general are supposed to have that, I want to say, sensitive or artistic side, and they're more tuned into your emotions and stuff like that, which is a wonderful quality for any human being to have, right? But that is the light aspect, right? But everybody universally has light aspects and shadow aspects. So the shadow can be that they go like the crab, right? So it is the sign of the crab. So you don't know when they're going to bite you or attack you or get cranky about or moody about something. So what I'm trying to say is it's important to look at everything holistically. You're not just your sun, your moon. There's literally, it's a chart with 12 houses, 9 planets, and all of them are, you know, interacting and playing with each other. And so if I reduce you to just being your sun or your moon, I'm not seeing you as a whole individual.
Should we move on to tarot then?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start with how tarot works for the uninitiated and what one can hope to learn from, or like how best to utilize tarot.
Sure.
Should you be seeking answers?
Absolutely. Specific questions get specific answers. So it's always good to come in with an intention, but also don't be rigid, because I think that for me, tarot is like storytelling. You know, you're pulling out all of these cards. They're so rich in images and symbology. So that's one aspect, because every card has a certain meaning, has a certain definition, and how they're laid out will tell you how they're interacting with each other. Again, as we spoke about in the birth chart, they have colors. I mean, you're looking at the colors, you're looking at symbols, you're looking at numbers, and the other element is, of course, your intuition, which I can say that I would assume that most readers are also tuning into a higher force, like they're sort of channeling or channeling information, or they're mediums in some way. So the way that the cards are laid out will tell you a story, but then there's that other element of what you are receiving as a divine download in that moment, which gives you an additional layer to the story. The third thing is, again, I'm going to come back to curiosity, because if I'm not willing to listen to you, can't answer your question, right? So as a reader, don't be afraid to ask questions. You don't know everything, right? So understand where the person is at, what they're struggling with, because that will help you, that will enhance your reading. It'll help you uncover deeper layers.
Okay, I have a question before we pull some cards. Yes. I think that when one is contemplating seeing a psychic or one fears being told bad news.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think some mediums may manipulate you based on realizing how vulnerable you are, as we were talking about, and some might choose not to. I mean, is it possible with specificity to really determine that a negative event, of such and such magnitude is going to just by looking at a card? Or do you think that there's that it is common for practitioners without sufficient integrity to simply scare and to just like utilize the power that they wield over a willing, I don't know, lost soul hoping to, you know what I mean? If someone told me something awful, I feel like it's more likely I'm going to come back. But can you, both joyful and awful, can you, how specific are the answers that reveal themselves to you generally?
It can be really specific. I will also say that sometimes, in rare cases, you're also guided to not share everything, okay? But again, I want to go back to it being a tool of guidance, which means that nothing is absolute. If I tell you, Lisa, this is going to happen on August 18, 2026, but you're just like, no, I'm going to stay at home, I don't need to go meet this person. I don't need to go to Dubai where I've been invited for XYZ. There's a chance that encounter or that episode might not play out because you're choosing not to act on it. So like I said, okay, there is destiny. There are certain things that are pivotal that I don't want to say they are written. I want to say that you on a higher level have written that before you came here, and now you're just like, wait, did I decide that? Yes, you did, and now you're uncovering it through the cards. But there is so much more scope for you to understand, this is where I want to go and what can I do to get there, rather than looking at it as an absolute. Does that make sense?
So would you say that people benefit from a shift in mindset where instead of seeing yourself as a passive sort of victim of whatever has been written, like there's nothing you can do about it. It is, preordained. Or like, this is a prediction and I am telling you what will happen. Do you think that in a way, when you said that you've written it, that one's own free will and agency should be honored at all points, where one, instead of feeling a lack of control or helplessness, that actually one is very much a participant in how everything
You nailed it. You couldn't have described it in a more accurate way. Like I said, I mean, this and that is true. I can't say that destiny is not playing out, right? You are born in a certain country, in a certain family. There is a container, there are certain circumstances at play. But what are you doing with that elements? That's on you, right? And why did I say it's you? Because it's very easy to say it is written, but the reason that I'm saying you have written it is because we are consciously creating our reality. Before a soul chooses to be born, it's sitting in this conference room with other beings, which could be your ancestors or higher dimensional beings, and you're having this cosmic conference and saying, okay, this is the lesson I didn't learn. This is a person that clearly I was really mean to, so now I have to go make amends and stuff like that. So there is that element of why have you attracted this person? Because you clearly have pending karma. But but now how are you going to make amends here? Right? Or how are you going to heal this relationship? Or more importantly, how are you going to heal that pattern within you that creates this circumstance again and again?
Should we see what these cards
absolutely
want to reveal today?
Yeah. So let's get specific, Leeza. Why don't you tell me, of course, sticking to the topic of love and relationships, why don't you tell me where you are and what would you like to uncover through the cards? And I'm going to ask you to just gently touch this with your left hand. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And go on. The cards are listening.
So I should tell you where I'm at right now?
Yeah. Give me a little bit of a background. What is your intention? What would you like to uncover?
I think I've prioritized work so much in my life in the last several years that my romantic life has not been a priority. But I'm also aware of the fact that unfortunately female biology has a, in terms of like, were you ever to have a child, or which thus far I always thought I definitely don't want. But I want, sometimes you just like reevaluate what you've believed thus far about yourself, I guess. I think that I have some things to learn about what I actually want. Like, I think I've not been in relationships with intention. I suppose I wasn't that concerned with the end result. Do you know what I mean? If I like someone, care about them, and they bring meaning to my life.
Okay.
So I wonder, what do the next 5 years hold for me in terms of my romantic life? Am I going to get married? Will I have children? I have very consciously rejected those possibilities thus far, if that makes sense.
Okay. Which is, say, sticking to the norm in some way, or what was expected.
I thought I would never do these things.
Okay.
I just wonder whether the, I don't know, the forces at play think otherwise.
So we've laid out your cards, Leeza.
We've laid out my cards.
On the scale of 0 to 10, how real would you like me to be?
10.
Amazing. So I'm going to start in no particular order. I'll tell you a little bit about this. So I'm using a classic Rider-Waite deck. Okay, there are many interpretations.
A what deck? Sorry, what's it called?
A Rider-Waite deck. Okay, that's the name of the deck. It's one of the most classic decks out there, and there are 100 interpretations. But I chose this specifically for today because the images are very literal. Okay. And I'm going to start, and the reading that you see here, the cards are laid out in a specific way, but I'm not going to go in linear order because I don't do that. But I'm going to pick up a few cards and explain it to you. And this is not a card this is the card that a lot of people despise. It's the Devil card. Okay. And the Devil card actually resembles the Lover's card, which I'll probably pull out at some point. And in a romantic relationship or in a romantic reading, that's the card you want to see. And if I had to compare the two, you would see the Lover's card as a little more, as a colorful version of this one, minus the chains. Okay. So the Devil here can signify multiple things. It can signify self-sabotaging patterns, okay? The chains here can also signify where we're feeling restricted in our lives, okay? Now, if I were to zoom out of your reading and simply kind of tell you the overarching message, I'd tell you your journey right now, you put this specific time period of 5 years, I would say that your journey is about you, okay? And that doesn't mean the lack of the other, but I'm saying that this is such an individual journey. And I don't want to say, professional and personal, I mean individual journey, whatever that means to you. That your lesson right now is to learn how to prioritize the me and the we, okay? And to consciously choose partners that, if I were to put it bluntly, not distract you from your path and purpose. Okay. And what that means, again, I want to go back to the chains because I know that's something that you have spoken about to me a little bit, about feeling stifled by more conventional forms of relating, right? Like, say you question why one should get married or, live in a certain format. And your dialogue with yourself or your journey of self-discovery right now is actually, I don't see lack of partners or lack of options, because you're starting with two aces, right? And this is a great card to have because you're starting with the Ace of Wands, which is literally like, it's an offering, right? It's like a phallic symbol, literally, okay? Because the cards are very visual. And it's about heat and passion and desire. And the Ace of Pentacles here is also saying that there is a possibility for you to solidify that connection. It's not just something frivolous that's in the air. You know, you can say, okay, I sense meaning here and I want to invest in this connection. And just going by my intuitive sense of things, I feel like it's not limited to one. There are a few options that will come your way. But for you, it could be a freeze moment where you take a step forward, but the devil plays out in the way that you are worried of repeating patterns from your past. You're worried of, you know, sabotaging it in some way. But that's where the journey of introspection starts, because it's for you to understand. Sometimes understanding not this is a part of understanding this is what I actually want, right? And I know no one really likes this, but spiritually, when you look at it, the person in front of me is a mirror, and they're helping me basically understand myself better. So I'm not glorifying a partner who is, you know, just bad news or a red flag, but I'm saying that it's not always about, it's too simplistic to say that you're the bad guy, but more about understanding what patterns are being mirrored to me and how can I use this container to maybe break certain patterns or clarify my intentions and truly get into alignment with what I want from a partnership, right? And a lot of it is also going to be about deconditioning yourself. And if you really just embrace that journey and take it as, okay, it's a game, let's do this, you know, it's all just a divine comedy, I feel like you come out of this period with a greater sense of clarity about what you want, and lighter, just feeling lighter. You know, like you've worked through all of this karmic baggage, and you can almost start a relationship with the not naivety but innocence of a teenager.
I like that.
Yeah.
What does the Fool card indicate?
That's exactly where
the naivety of the teenager?
Yeah, because it's number 0, right? And that's the very first card of the deck where you're standing at the edge of the cliff and you're ready to jump into the unknown. So you're coming out of this space where you work through all of this baggage, you've been in the space of awareness, and your journey takes you to that point where you're like, you know what, I'm ready to start with this sense of lightness and brightness.
Thank you for that. That was so sweet. I like the wand, the Ace of Wands.
Of course, don't we all?
So do you sometimes do a reading for yourself?
Of course, because okay, so here's the thing. I know the red flags, but would that stop me from jumping in anyway?
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. So how often would you say that the tarot or even the birth chart and stuff play quite a big role in your own mate selection?
Do I really want to put it out there?
Okay, no, you can.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, so here's what I tell everyone, which is that it's a great tool of awareness. So unless it's, you know, literally giving me like 5 crosses, then I'm going to look at that as divine guidance and choose not to explore something. But if it is a relationship that's meaningful for me, then then the spread or the chart is like a sort of guidance on what I can work on, how I can make it juicier. So that's how I like to look at it.
And have you found that your sort of intuitions or insights from these sources to always be very accurate? Or have you ever been surprised, a person ever surprised you?
I think I also make a conscious effort or a conscious decision to leave room for surprises. So I don't want to overplan things. I'm in the human experience and I want to be in the human experience.
So let's move on to numerology.
Okay.
How is it either connected or distinct from tarot and astrology? And what should someone who knows nothing about it understand?
So I want to say it's all connected, if you look at the cards, they all have certain numbers. Every number is associated with a certain planet, so in a way it also connects with your birth chart. In your case, you are a 25.
That's just the day on which you're born?
Yes.
The day of the month?
Absolutely.
Is your primary number or something?
Yes, your personality number. So in your case, it would be a 7.
So it's always the sum of the digits?
Yes.
It's a single digit? It's only from 1 to 9?
Absolutely. Unless it is 11 or 22, which are master numbers, so you don't reduce that to 204.
Let's say I'm born on the 25th.
Yes.
I am 7, 2 plus 5.
Absolutely. And that is the number of Ketu, okay, which is actually a very misunderstood energy. But if I had to simplify and tell you that a few things that I could tell you about the number is that they are great with research. You know, they are really great when it comes to uncovering the truth about something. It could be a PhD, or it could be the mysteries of life, or anything at all, depending on what they are curious about. They're also very instinctive people. So if a 7 tells me, this is something that I follow, if a 7 tells me, okay, this person, vibes are off, or this situation not gonna work for you, I'll just believe them. I don't need you to give me logic, I'll just believe you. Does that resonate in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always benefited from listening to my gut.
Okay.
Although I usually don't tell other people what to do, but maybe I should. I'm just going to tell them what to do. I'm a 7, okay?
Business.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your main number.
Your personality number.
Your personality number.
Yes.
And then when you do the sum of your whole...
The destiny number.
That's your destiny number?
Yes.
So it would be like your month plus the day plus the year?
Yes.
The sum of those digits.
Do you feel like a little bit of math?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
2 plus 5 is 12, plus 1 plus 9 is 22, plus 9 is 20, no, 31.
Okay, so you're 1990.
Yeah.
That's 1. Because 9 plus anything would be that digit. So 9 plus 1 is 1.
Oh, 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 1 plus 0, like 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 0 is...
We're doing some complicated
is 1?
math. Okay, let's reduce.
I hope listeners are following. Stay with us, okay? Stay with us.
Okay, so 9 plus 9 is 18.
Yes.
18 plus 1
is 19.
Okay, 1 plus 9?
Said is
10.
10.
Yes, so we we reduce 1990 to 1. Okay? You're born in the month of?
May.
So that's a 5. So we've reduced your birth number to 7 plus 5 plus 1. Okay. Now let's do the math.
So 12. No, sorry, 13.
13. Okay. Now reduce that to a single digit.
4.
Perfect, right? So that is the number of Rahu or Uranus. So it's the destiny number. It's the overarching picture of your life. It's what's going to drive you. And a simple way to look at 4 is that it's a master builder. It's the number that builds strong foundations, you know, whether that means it could literally be building a business, as in your case. There's always something a little unusual or a little out of the box in the way that they will do it. So if you're expecting a 4 to stick to the tried and tested or to follow the rule book, then you're going to be really disappointed.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't... Embrace
it. Embrace what makes you weird and wonderful.
Wave your weird freak flag. Your freak flag. Yeah.
Literally, right? And of course, that also plays out in compatibility in a way where, like I said, certain numbers are just naturally more compatible with other numbers. And certain numbers have a hard time understanding other numbers, again, because of how the planets interact with each other. And that's where friction arises. And now a simple way to, you know, how we say that opposites attract, right? I think that's perhaps too simplistic, because the way that I like to look at it is it's like intersecting circles, right? There has to be something, there has to be some relatability or commonality, but there also has to be some differences, which leads me to be curious about going back to the eternal question, why are you the way you are? Right?
I think that viewers and listeners might enjoy being able to take something from this conversation into their own lives.
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned that some numbers are more compatible with others, and we talked a little bit when we were talking about astrology about the sort of characteristics associated with each sign. But should we lean into that a little? I'm always, what might I be like in what might my sign or my element or my number be like in a relationship? I think everyone likes hearing insight that they can apply to their own life. So do you want to take us through what the main sun sign, what the sun signs are like, or which ones tend to be compatible, and element maybe?
Yeah, sure. Let's look at the elements.
Let's look at the elements.
That's a great way to to get an overarching sense of somebody. And so I don't want to say all Aquarians or all Cancerians. I want to say Aquarius placements, because that's a way of saying that could be your sun, your moon. It could be, like I said, the Mars or the Venus sign, right? So I'm going to try to make it a little juicy with examples. But let's talk about the elements, because that's such a great way, that's such a fundamental understanding, right? So why don't you tell me, what does the earth do? What if I told you someone was an earth sign? What sense would that give you?
That they're grounded, stable, reliable. I don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely, and very tactile, right? Like, for instance, Taurus is known to be one of the most sensual signs, right? So, like an example that I could give you, a typical Taurian date night would be going to a really fancy Michelin star restaurant where you're not just feasting. It's not just about the taste, it's about the visual experience, it's about dressing up, it's about putting on a nice perfume, and all in all, indulging all of your senses. Let's talk water. If I told you that I'm a water sign, what would you imagine my personality to be like?
Fluid.
Okay.
Soothing,
right?
Maybe even nurturing,
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Helping things grow. I don't know.
Yeah,
enriching.
Artistic, sensitive, way more tuned into their emotions in their light, more tuned into their emotions and the emotions of their other person. I gave you the example of a Taurus date night. For Cancer, it could be something entirely different. It could be a meal that's more soothing, like a comfort meal, but because it's the sign of home, maybe, and not to say that they can't be fun or playful, they could have all of these other qualities, but for them, inviting somebody into their sacred space is, like I said, it is their sacred space, so it's a big deal to give somebody that sort of gate pass, as opposed to somebody who is way more social and always has friends over, right? So their love language is maybe cooking for you, or literally letting you come into their house, or making you meet their family or their pet, and those and through all of these little things, they're letting you know that I care and I'm letting you into my life. Yeah.
I suppose people should go look up whether they're an air sign or, a earth sign or water sign or whatever, if they don't already know.
Absolutely.
And apply some of these.
Absolutely. But like I said, it's always a mix of different things. Like, say you're a Gemini sun, but you have a Taurus rising, right? So I can't reduce it to one, but I can say that maybe you have more placements in water signs or earth signs, and that would in some way feature in the way that you interact with other people, how that shows up in your relationships, right? So
we have air signs left, right?
We have air and fire left.
Oh, air and fire, sorry,
right?
My bad.
But also, I'm interrupt to say that water and earth are generally more compatible with each other. There's a greater sense of, I get you.
Okay.
And with fire and earth, because it's upward moving energy, there's more sense of adventure and let's try something new and let's get our hands dirty or let's go on this trip together, So there is, there's a deeper sense of understanding in these elements.
And do two people who have the same elements, like fire and fire, earth and earth, tend to, how does that work?
Yeah, they can. Like I said, love is not logical, right? But okay, let's say fire. What would you imagine the qualities of a fire sign to be?
volatility,
Sure.
I don't know, passion,
Yeah, zest for life.
exuberance, yeah.
Absolutely, not afraid to shine, right? Their love language could be motivating their partner.
What am I?
So you have a lot of Gemini placements from what I understand. In your big three, you have a sun and moon both in Gemini, and that's an air sign, right?
Oh, okay.
So
which the internet hates.
I don't. You're sitting with an air sign.
Oh, okay.
But with air signs, I always say, now, like, personally speaking, I think intellect is such a turn on, wit is such a turn on. Like, you could have the most beautiful gym body in the world, but if you can't turn me on with your words, you can't turn me on, you know?
Same.
I'm sure you relate to that.
Yeah.
So, but going back to your question about fire and fire, right? Because it is passion, it is exuberance. Now, they could fuel each other in the way that, you know, I motivate you, you motivate me, and we both have big goals, energy, and this zest for life. Or it could lead to a lot of friction.
Too much fire.
Yeah, too much fire, you know. With air signs, maybe there's just too much space, too much freedom, and no one calls each other because they were waiting for the other person to call. Or they could really, or they could inspire each other in the way that there's always more conversation, there's deep conversation, they're inspiring each other, they're curious, doing courses together or exploring new cultures together. So it can go both ways. There'll always be a deeper sense of understanding, you know, even in friendships. But like I said, how much is too much?
Interesting. Was there anything else we want to reveal about air signs? Because we didn't give them.
Yeah, we didn't give them enough face time. Well, why don't you tell me? What do you think about?
Perfect. No. Air signs, probably, I don't know, filled with self-doubt, unable to commit.
Yeah.
Let's just roast me.
Yeah.
I tend to, I think, be very conflict averse.
Okay.
But I don't know if all air signs are like this.
Sure.
Maybe, but I think like a reluctance to commit sounds quite airy, does it not?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But like I said, I mean, that's the thing, right? They need to be intellectually stimulated. Like, yes, I mean, every connection is inherently mind, body, and spirit. But with all air signs, but especially Gemini, every day is not the same day. You can't give them the same package every day. It's not going to work, right? So there has to be an element of fun and spontaneity and sometimes unpredictability. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not saying be a red flag, but I'm saying keep it fun, you know?
Now, this has been so much fun, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think that when divination is presented in the way that you do, in this way that's so empathetic and so filled with compassion and also with, you know, self-awareness and humor, and it has this lightness to it which feels like a wonderful way to get to know yourself better without any kind of high stakes that stand to get in my way or, you know, make me afraid or all of that stuff, which is why I've really, really enjoyed this. But I also want to acknowledge that unfortunately sometimes astrology is used in our culture, particularly, you know, to prevent people from being able to be with the one that they love or to induce all kinds of irrational beliefs and things. So I want to also address as we wrap, like what makes this, you know, let's say you have a kitchen knife, you can use it to make dinner, you can use it to hurt someone.
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
And I think anything in life really has the potential to be utilized for good or to cause harm. So I'd love to just explain a bit further, since we've talked so much about compatibility as well, and we're doing so with a certain levity. And yet, you know, when people are matching kundlis and, as you said, making you marry a tree and this and that, like that levity is lost. It can be quite oppressive and quite, even quite harmful. So do you want to just explain to people how, you know, how different this is from that, let's say, or I don't want to put words in your mouth. Or just we want to sort of reconcile the different ways in which divination has been used historically and can be used, as well as how we can all try and get the most out of it, enjoy the insight and perspective and even joy that it can bring to get to know yourself and others this way.
Absolutely.
While minimizing and mitigating any potential for harm.
So from what I understand, you're talking about Kundli matching, right? Or horoscope matching, where traditionally astrologers looked at the birth chart of potential partners and said, hey, is this going to work or not? And you have to understand that that system was created at a time where the partners didn't necessarily meet each other, so the parameters were different. So I would say again, in some way the system is wild. For instance, you can know specifics about sexual compatibility based on apparently what yoni you have, which is the there are certain animal references that are used, and that particular point amongst 36 points will give you a very clear indication of whether you and your partner are sexually compatible. Okay, so there, like I said, it is specific, but it has a lot to do with culture and progeny and right partner for kids, whereas the rules that apply then don't necessarily apply to us. So a lot of people that I know, the way that I want to say it is that love transcends all. So I don't care if you have 3 points matching or 36 points matching, because what's more important is how much you are willing to show up for yourself and your partner. And if you're willing to do the work to make that relationship work, right? Because love is not just, love is a verb, right? I can love you, but am I willing to show up and work on that relationship? If I say getting that eternity tattoo or saying I do in front of your friends and family members is not enough. Every single day I put that love into action, and that is what defines my relationship. And so coming back to clients, I do have a lot of them who I know are deeply in love with each other and sort of feel this sense of opposition from their families because a pundit told them that this isn't going to work for XYZ reasons. And my guidance, for me, it's my go-to. It's the cards to tap into whatever higher sources, which is their spirit guides or source, to get the guidance that is going to enable them to make their journey smoother. So like I said, it's always guidance based. It's, hey, this is going to work, but maybe this is how you navigate an argument, or this is how you navigate family friction, to kind of give them helpful tools and to remind them that ultimately it is on you to create your best relationship.
Love transcends everything. What a great note to wrap up on, Zohra. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Would you like to tell people where they can find you?
Absolutely. So I'm Woodstock_witch at Instagram and woodstockwitch.com. Some of you have already connected with me through the daily, weekly horoscopes, but you can find a bunch of different services, offerings, upcoming workshops, and retreats on the website.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. Love Matters is produced by the Indian Express and DW, Germany's international broadcaster. If you have a question, topic suggestion, or an insight you'd like to share with us, you can reach us at lovematters@dw.com. We'd also love it if you shared this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone else you think would enjoy it. Till next time, this is me, Leeza Mangaldas, and I believe love matters. Before we go, I have a recommendation for you. If you like our show, you shouldn't miss Besharm Isha. Hosted by your bae, Isha Bhatia Sanan, this video series dives into the real issues that matter to today's youth, from social media's influence to sex education and mental health. With voices from India's streets as well as expert opinions, Isha is the bold, unapologetic voice you've been waiting for, because Besharmi is the way to go. Catch Besharm Isha, produced by DW and the Indian Express, streaming now on their YouTube channels. Don't miss it.